When a baby learns a language, they learn it by living it. I'm talking about bebop. In today's atmosphere, we may not have this chance because we're not living in Manhattan during 50s and we're not close to 52nd Street, and everywhere is a jazz bar and people are playing, and the Harlem Renaissance is happening. They're writing poems, writing books, playing. So that's a completely different era, okay? They go to Harlem, and a lot of jazz musicians there too. A big band is there. No Spotify. Music is very valuable, and wow, it sounds like a great time. Anyway, I wanted to go back to that time. It's a different situation. When Ella Fitzgerald learned singing, scat singing, it was just by sitting in with all those long jam sessions. She heard what they're doing with arpeggios going up and down and chromatic approach tones. She started imitating just like a baby would, okay? But today, we don't have that. So we have to, we can't simulate the same atmosphere. We have to look at it from a different perspective. But everything started with Dizzy and Charlie Parker. All right, and there's this book called, I'm sure all of you heard it, OmniBook. Certain standards, certain bebop heads, and Charlie Parker solos, everything is in it. But some of them are hard to play for guitar. Anyway, there are ways around it. I looked for similarities, okay? And similarities, syncopation techniques, I try to look for unwritten rules, okay? So try to emulate that, try to build a logic around it so I can teach it easier to my students. That's why I call this video Bebop Syntax, because we're going to look at examples of it, all right? Let me play you a simple 2-5-1. 2-5 happens in one measure and one happens on the other measure. Okay, here you go. Let's play you another example. 2-5-1 happens in 3 bars. They are doing something similar, okay? The chord is they're using arpeggio sounds. The chord is like D minor 7, right? So the line uses whole step, half step, and the third. Okay, third is very important. Third of a chord is very important in bebop, and playing 6 interval is also important, but we'll get to that. So, and then it happens something like that, okay? And then the line goes on and then resolves to C major. This is used a lot in the book. I checked it. And then this pattern, whole step, half step approach to the third, and then usually follows with the triplets. You should look at those examples and try to adapt it to the guitar, because you can play it here, whole, half to third, but you can also play it here. You could easily come up with other lines deriving it from that, okay? Let's say you want to play a D minor 7 arpeggio, D, F, A, C, or one octave higher, D, F, A, C. Instead of going up, sometimes people go down. And then because once you're at C, then your neighbor note is the third of a dominant chord, which is B, like third of the G7. You could easily come up with the line after that. So try to play the 6 intervals on guitar. It's either gonna be a major sixth, or a minor 6. Alright, so they use that a lot. That's another second thing I noticed. So if you want to play bebop, you would have to know how to play the sixth intervals really well, okay? That's another thing. Let me play you a couple lines for this, okay? And at the beginning of the G7 chord, it's the third of G7, which is B. And then what happens? And then it resolves to a third of C major 7. We can do this skipping an octave higher. So changing an octave in the middle of a line, another thing that beboppers use a lot, okay? Now check out the same thing, exactly the same thing in minor 2-5-1. Here you go. There is a logic to it. I'm sure when they learned it, as I said before, they learned it through life, by living it. But not everybody is that lucky, okay? We weren't there at that time. You can also take a look at the OmniBook. It's like the Bible of bebop, okay? And look for the similarities, and you have to look for ways to adapt it to your guitar playing, all right? And check out a few examples I mentioned, like playing the sixth, starting at the third of the chord, starting with whole step, half step approach. Check out the syncopations I did in those examples. And then you don't have to play a whole solo. I mean, that's how I looked at OmniBook. At first it was a mistake. This was like 20, 30 years ago. I can't remember the exact time. But when I first saw OmniBook, it was very hard for me to grasp and to play on the guitar. But I looked at it wrong. I should have broken it into smaller pieces and study one lick, one phrase here, study another phrase there. You know, I should have chosen those phrases that are easy to play on guitar. Once I get the hang of it, I could incorporate those phrases into my playing, and then I get better that way. And then maybe I can do something harder next time, okay? That's how you should look at it. This is about it for the subject, for this subject, and I'm going to say. So I'll see you guys next week.